So in my place-based learning lesson for first grade, my students will be going to the Kansas Museum of History and going on their tour specifically for first graders called Indian Homes in Kansas. The standards, I found this resource on the Kansas Museum of History website, and they listed a lot of standards that could be used. So social studies standards, for example, would be standard 5, that is relationships among people, places, ideas, and environments are dynamic. 5.1, the students will recognize and evaluate dynamic relationships that impact living in communities, states, and nations. As well as benchmark 5, indicator 2, the students compare types of shelter used by American Indians in Kansas over time. Benchmark 2, indicator 2, is the students describe how the physical environment impacts humans. There's also an ELA standard that went along with this lesson, and that is reading 1.10, and it's the students with prompting and support will read informational text appropriately complex for grade 1. So I like the cross-curricular integration there. I really loved this resource, and it was super easy to find just on the Kansas History Museum website. There was a tab that was education or educate, and it was a drop down, and you could click on the museum tours or capital tours. So I clicked on museum, and it gave a list of tours for specific grades. So I clicked on the first grade one, which was obviously Indian Homes in Kansas. So, and it obviously goes along well because those are Kansas standards. It listed that once you book your tour, you get pre and post visit materials. So I included that in my lesson plan. So before preparation for the lesson, I said before going to the field trip to the museum, we will complete pre-visit materials and read the Read Kansas American Homes in Kansas resource provided by that is on the Kansas Museum of History, Kansas History Museum website, and they are little brief informative packets, I would say, of that's Meet the Wichita, Meet the Pawnee, Meet the Cheyenne, and Meet the Kansas Indian tribes, which are all represented on the tour. So for students, building that background knowledge I feel is very important. So if I was actually doing this lesson, I would have my students, we would read those together as a class, so we can build background knowledge before we go on our visit. So then we would also complete the pre-visit material that's provided by the museum. I would probably do the readings like the week kind of before and of, so like maybe one reading a day for the students. So start 4 days before the trip, and then do the pre-visit material the day before the trip, so it's fresh in their minds. So then in the middle of my lesson plan, I put we will attend the Indian Homes in Kansas tour at the Kansas History Museum. This tour is guided. It is a guided tour for first grade specifically. The tours enables first grade students to become more familiar with traditional homes of the 3 Kansas American tribes, Pawnee, Wichita, and Cheyenne. Students will learn how the availability of natural resources influence these tribes in the choice of style and materials used for their homes. And then while still at the museum, the students will get to set up a teepee and go inside. So that would be so much fun for them. It said the tour is about 75 minutes. And if I was doing this from my practicum, it would be from Wamego, so it'd be about an hour and 20 minutes. So a big chunk of our day, but I think it would be worth it. And I said for the ending, still, it would be the day of the tour, just after we got back. I go, once returning back to school, we will complete the post-visit materials provided by the Kansas Museum of History, and then debrief and kind of just talk about what our favorite parts of the day were. My essential questions were what different types of shelter did the Indians of Kansas use over time? And I think that would be a good debrief question at the end. And then another one, how did the environment impact early Kansas Indians? So just kind of get their take on that. For my lesson objectives, I did students will be able to list natural resources used to make shelters by the Kansas American Indians. I think this would be a great resource for anywhere in Kansas. It's Topeka. It's not too far from far for western Kansas, but easy to get to if you're in Kansas City, Wichita, Manhattan area. So yeah.